Dance with my son and become his bride. Millionaire's cruel joke. Backfired. When Black Maid stunned as Waltz champion, in a glittering ballroom filled with the city's wealthiest elite, laughter echoed off crystal chandeliers. All eyes turned to the millionaire who loved mocking those he saw as beneath him. With a smirk, he pointed at the quiet Black Maid serving drinks and made a cruel announcement. "Dance with my son and you'll marry him." The crowd erupted in laughter, expecting humiliation. But what no one knew was that beneath the uniform, this young maid carried a secret past. This past would soon silence every sneer in the room and change the meaning of power, dignity, and justice forever. The night was supposed to be nothing more than another grand party. The Thompson estate had become a symbol of wealth, arrogance, and untouchable privilege. Politicians, business people, and socialites swirled about in dazzling gowns and tuxedos, sipping champagne as orchestras played timeless waltzes. Among the flurry of silks and jewels stood a figure almost invisible, Amara, a young Black maid. She had been working in the Thompson household for years, enduring whispered insults, cold glances, and the subtle, constant reminder that she did not belong. Every gesture of service was seen but never acknowledged. She was present, yet never truly seen. But behind her quiet demeanor lay an untold story. Long before scrubbing floors and carrying trays, Amara had grown up in a small community where music was life and dance was freedom. She had trained in waltz, foxtrot, and even competitive ballroom, guided by her late grandmother, who believed that every step carried dignity. Yet, life's hardships had stripped her of that dream, leaving her only with memories of polished shoes gliding across wooden floors. Tonight's party was supposed to be like all the others. On this night, she would blend into the background, overlooked and underestimated. But fate had other plans. When the millionaire, Mr. Thompson, sought entertainment, he chose cruelty. He singled Amara out, mocking her presence in front of the elite. His words were meant to remind everyone of their place, to make her humiliation their amusement. The ballroom grew silent for a moment, then erupted in laughter. None expected resistance. None expected courage. And indeed, none expected what would follow when the music began. The challenge hung in the air like a cloud of smoke. "Dance with my son, and perhaps you'll become his bride," Mr. Thompson sneered, his voice laced with arrogance. His son, William Jr., a handsome young man groomed for privilege, shifted uncomfortably. He wasn't part of the cruelty, but silence made him complicit. The guests roared, clinking glasses, their laughter sharp and cutting. To them, Amara was just a maid, a shadow, someone to serve and never to be celebrated. The idea of her sharing a dance, let alone with the heir of the estate, was their entertainment. But Amara stood frozen, not in fear, but in memory. Her grandmother's words echoed, "Dignity is not given, child, it is carried." Even in chains we dance free, her heart pounded. She could walk away, endure another night of ridicule, another scar in silence. Or she could step forward and reclaim what was once hers. Taking a deep breath, she placed the tray aside. The laughter grew louder, the ridicule sharper. Yet Amara walked forward, her posture tall, her eyes steady. A hush fell across the ballroom. No one expected her acceptance. The orchestra hesitated, then struck the first notes of a waltz. William Jr., unsure but intrigued, extended his hand. For the first time that night, he looked at her not as a maid, but as something else, a mystery unfolding before his eyes. The first steps were cautious, her movements measured. Guests leaned closer, smirking, waiting for her stumble. But then, it happened. Amara's body remembered what her heart had buried. Her steps grew fluid, precise, commanding. The room shifted as she turned, spun, and moved with a grace that belonged not to a servant, but to a champion. Each movement drew whispers, then gasps, then stunned silence. The crowd that once laughed now stared, wide-eyed. Their sneers dissolved into awe as the maid they mocked transformed into the star of the ballroom. William Jr. struggled to keep pace, his privilege no match for her practiced precision. It was no longer his dance. It was hers. The chandeliers sparkled above, reflecting not just wealth, but the brilliance of dignity reclaimed. For every spin, every glide, Amara told a story of resilience, of survival, of a voice long silenced, now speaking through motion. The music swelled, and by the time the final note fell, the ballroom erupted, not in laughter, but in thunderous silence. Then slowly and reluctantly applause began. Not for the millionaire, not for his son, but for the maid who had just reminded everyone of the one truth they had forgotten. Worth is not given by wealth, but by the soul. Mr. Thompson's smile faltered. This was never the outcome he intended. His joke, his cruelty, had turned against him. The room that once laughed with him now looked at him with quiet judgment. Amara stood in the center, her breathing steady, her eyes no longer cast down. For the first time in years, she wasn't invisible. She was undeniable. Whispers filled the room. Where did she learn? She dances better than any of us. That wasn't luck. That was mastery. The cruel power he wielded through humiliation slipped away. Every guest who once feared him now saw weakness in his mockery. His authority cracked, exposed by a maid's courage. William Jr. bowed to Amara, his respect evident. In that gesture, the balance of the room shifted completely. The air of privilege, honoring the maid his father sought to shame. It was the final blow. Humiliation now belonged not to her, but to him. When the evening ended, Amara didn't leave as she had arrived. She walked out not as a maid burdened by silence, but as a woman who had reclaimed her dignity before the very eyes that sought to deny it. The story of that night spread beyond the walls of the ballroom. For some it was gossip, for others it was inspiration, and for Amara it was proof that no amount of cruelty could strip away the truth of who she was. She returned to her duties, yes, but never again invisible. For the wealthy, she was now a reminder of what lies beneath assumptions. For the oppressed, she became a quiet symbol of strength. Mr. Thompson, however, never regained the same sense of humor from his peers. His cruelty had exposed his weakness, while the maid he mocked revealed his hypocrisy. And so, the lesson lingered long after the chandeliers dimmed. In a world that mocks your worth, sometimes the greatest act of defiance is to rise, step forward, and show them who you are. Because dignity cannot be mocked away. Because courage dances louder than cruelty. Because every step toward justice begins with the refusal to bow.